So, hello, namaste, namaskar, good afternoon, good morning, or maybe even good evening in whichever part of the world you are joining us from. My name is Deepakar Khemani, and I am one of the co founders of Bloom. Along with me, my co host Abhijit Sangiri, also another co founder of Bloom. I take immense pleasure in informing to you that this is our 218th non-stop Sunday Bloom Talk show. Ever since we started during the pandemic, be it rain or shine, online or offline, we have always been there at 12:30 afternoon India time. Across these 217 done episodes, we have had people from across the globe, from each and every continent, including Antarctica. A person who has been to Antarctica thrice has also graced our platform. So, people from the US, Europe, South America, Australia, you name it, and they've been here. So, we've got athletes, we've got coaches, we've got trainers, speakers, couples, we've got just you name it, and they have been here. So healers, doctors, homeopaths, surgeons, everybody has been here helping us understand what they do and what they are doing, just that little bit to make the world a better place. Continuing that tradition, in that series, we have with us Sarika Puri with us today. And the theme of today's show is reimagining your career and life in a fast changing world. Welcome to the show, Sarika.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you for joining in on a Sunday afternoon. Now, normally what we do is, there is a sheet shared by the speaker, and we would then read it out and then introduce the speaker. But instead of doing that, what I would do is I would request you to tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Why do you do it? How did it start? And how are you doing now? Please, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. So, I'm Sarika Puri, and I'm a career and life strategist. I have a passion for empowering individuals to reach their full potential in their profession and personal lives.
Wow.
I specialize in guiding professionals through career transitions, leadership development, life strategy, helping them align their goals with their strengths. I started my career more than 15 years ago in executive search. I worked with boutique search firms in India and abroad. Then I moved to in-house corporate HR. I've worked with companies like Lenskart and Byju's. And then a few years ago, I decided to be an entrepreneur and would love to empower individuals and help CXOs on this journey. So this is a little background about myself. I've had the privilege of living across various continents and cities, from London to New York to Bangalore, Bombay, and now Delhi.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So, at what point did you decide that enough is enough? I have done what I wanted to do, what I wanted to learn. My job is over, and now I want to influence the world. Now I want to do what I'm doing. What was that turning point? What was that inflection point?
To be honest, I feel like every few years I end up reaching that point when I decide I want to take a different turn in my career. Because I'm somebody who's ambitious, I'm somebody who's very curious, I'm creative, and I also feel like it's never enough to know too much of one thing, but it's always good to keep yourself upskilled and keep learning and keep growing. So I'm always prefer to be a student. So the first time I felt it is when I switched from boutique search into corporate HR. I felt that I would like to broaden my horizon and learn vertically and horizontally, and then moving to corporate HR would give me that opportunity. And then a few years ago, when I decided to be an entrepreneur, is when I decided that, hey, I would like to broaden my horizon even further and not limit myself to just one organization. Why not help individuals across the world by having my own brand name as Sarika Puri Consulting?
You spoke about HR manager, and all of us know, even though people may not tell it in public, but the HR manager is one of the most hated person in the organization. So, how do you take along people knowing, this is a fact and this is how people think about you?
So I actually feel it's quite disappointing to see that point of view because it is true, and but I've been trying my best over the years to change the impression of an HR manager and to help people understand the importance of an HR manager and not look at it as a burden, but more like an asset to the organization because we're really kind of we're the ones bringing in the talent in the company. We're the ones retaining the talent as well. Of course, we work very closely with the founders, CEOs to understand the vision and core values, but it's the HR team and the HR manager that kind of helps with the compensation benchmarking, talent and development, the training, which are the core values that are required in an organization for you to grow and progress. So I do believe that there has been this kind of an impression from the beginning, but I think I've been lucky in my career that I have not faced it during my tenure at any company because I feel like as an individual you can make a difference, and how you lead your team is the way that you can set an example for others to change their perception towards the HR fraternity.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us what common challenges, professional face in their career. A lot of people, 20, 30 years ago, people used to have only one job. That's it. You started at 25 and you ended at 58. Today,
Right,
Gen Z is, hopping and switching jobs every 3, 6 months.
right.
So as a professional, what are your two or three things in your mind are the challenges that today's workforce faces?
Right. No, absolutely. I think the first one is never stop upskilling yourself. I feel like a lot of individuals they stay in a one either it's extreme where either they'll stay in one organization for a long period of time because they receive the opportunity and it's of no fault of theirs. It's because they are growing and they are progressing and doing well. But
Yeah.
what ends up happening in the interim is they give up on their further education. They
Hmm.
give up on learning certain courses and upskilling themselves, which is really important along with the changing times.
Yeah.
And if you don't keep learning, you don't keep improving yourself, after a point, after the age of 45, 50 maybe, then there will be others who will sweep in and take
Yeah.
over your position. And it will
Yes.
be a little bit too late then for you to make any changes.
Yeah.
So the first challenge that I notice when I work with my clients as well is this is about they don't prioritize upskilling themselves, right? So that is definitely important. Doesn't have to always be doing full-time programs. There are fellowships which are available, there are courses, short courses available, there are executive programs which are available, and there are definitely many avenues now, platforms where we have access to that globally and in India, which is of course for the also for the thappa, but it's more for really the network, and you're learning new things, you're being a part of a new cohort, and you end up feeling young again, when you're working with so many people outside of the organization.
Yeah.
So that is definitely the first one I would say. The
Yes.
second is working across cultures. I feel like it's extremely important to expose yourself to work across geographies if possible, and definitely across cultures. Cities, you should expose yourself to different geographies. And if you haven't received the opportunity, ask for it, because the
Hmm.
more stakeholders you work with, the more departments you expose yourself to, you will
Yeah.
only become a more well-rounded professional.
Yeah. I mean, if you put that together, that it means you will probably be, moving in and out, traveling either within the country, or if your company is an MNC, you will probably be traveling different countries, right?
Well, they could be both ways. Nowadays, given since COVID has happened, the world has moved virtual. And
Yeah.
there's not too much of a difference now in having a meeting across, a Zoom like this, when all of us
Yes.
are actually based in various locations,
Yeah.
versus how it used to be pre-COVID, where it was always mandatory to be in the same conference room, even for a short meeting. So I think quite grateful to way things have changed over the last 5 years. And now, given the platforms that we have available, everything can be done online. So that should not be a bottleneck for anyone to feel like working across geographies.
Yeah. I just want to take you up on what you said just now, that, people need to keep on upskilling, learning, keep them updated with what is happening in the world. Most reasonably sized organization would clearly have some sort of an LLD program, a
Correct.
network, probably in-house trainers, or, outsourcing, where they would like their workforce to keep, updated and see to it that they don't, leave. How does that work? What has been your experience? Does that happen in small organizations, medium size, large organizations, MNC? Is there a difference?
Yes, so companies do have learning and development teams, and they have regular trainings that do take place. but that's a little bit more generalized, not so specific to the individual and what each person is looking for. And I don't feel like any two people are the same. So each person would have different aspirations. They would be looking for different things. For example, one of my clients who is a chief operating officer, he said, I don't like digital marketing. I don't know how to work on social media. Now, something which is so specific like that is an individual interest.
Yeah.
So and it is very important when you become CEO, if you're leading a team where you have all functions reporting into you, even if you're not a master in everything, you need to know everything. And if you have a mental block towards it, it's
Yeah.
time for you to take it up and learn it, whether
Yeah.
you like it or not.
Yeah.
So L&D is definitely is something which is important. In fact, I do corporate trainings with companies as well, where we touch upon various topics, which is important. I
Yeah.
wouldn't say all organizations are doing it. Some as a part of the structure, a part of the program, and some do it as in when needed, ad hoc.
Yeah.
But that's a little bit more generalized. That is definitely important, but it's not specific to the individual's needs. So upskilling for me would mean even taking up additional courses and additional fellowships, definitely over and above the trainings you receive at work.
Yeah. Again, you touched upon something about the CEO or the leader wanting to know a little bit of social media or not knowing on social media. And I'd like your views on what happened last week, that spat between the Ola guy and Kunal Kamra, which was all over Twitter, and, me, you, and this and that. And how does that work? Was it good? Was it bad? Did the company reputation take a nosedive? We all saw what happened. Your views.
Well, of course, I mean, there are two points of view, right? There's two ways of looking at a resolution, whether you would like to make it on social media and you would like the whole world to see it, or you resolve it in a very quiet, calm way. So I'm not someone to comment on what had happened there, but it's a very individual, personal choice. And of course, I mean, people who are very active on Twitter and social media are, for them, it doesn't really matter how many people are viewing it. They want to share
Yes.
their opinion. They're very confident about what they think and how they feel, and they
Yeah.
just put it out there without thinking twice.
Yeah.
But in my view, I do feel like it's extremely important as a part of your personal branding,
Yeah.
because whether what you're writing today and how you're kind of posting leaves an impression in people's mind,
Yeah.
and whether once things do resolve and once they do calm down, the water settles, people will still remember that, hey, you did speak in that tone, you did write it that way, which we don't realize in the moment, in the heat of the moment, thinking, hey, let's just have a conversation and a debate and let the world read it. So
Yeah.
it is a very personal choice, and it depends on the personality of the individual as well. But I would choose not to comment on this particular conversation.
People will dig out a tweet 10 years ago of what you had tweeted. Times have changed, everything else has changed, but they will say, you know
Absolutely.
what? You said this,
Absolutely, people do remember. They do. So be very mindful of what comes out of your mouth. Once spoken, cannot be taken back.
Yeah. This also tells us, that these young next generation, new generation CEOs or these startup people or people who have come up just now and, have established themselves versus somebody who is a CEO, let's say, of in a company has risen through the ranks, starting from down and then reaching up. There is clearly a difference on how they will talk, speak on social media. How
Right.
important is it to understand that social media is, one place where you can have views, but you can't get into a spat or can't argue with people. If you were a consultant to one of these people, what would your teachings to them be?
So yeah, for me, I believe a balance is extremely important because we're catering to an audience across all age groups. So for the younger generation, definitely, they definitely prefer being more in touch on screen and in technology versus a more in-person confrontation. Versus, I feel like the little bit older generation or the mid management would definitely prefer to get into a room, speak one on one, clarify it, and let's close the chapter. So
Yeah.
a good balance between the two for me would be the ideal situation. What I would advise my client would be, hey, it's all right to put out. You can definitely make a statement, but it should be resolved behind doors, not for the world to just kind of see every little detailed conversation that's happening. But be
Yeah.
mindful of what you're writing because again,
Yeah.
it cannot be taken back. So a balance between the two would be my answer.
Yeah. Again, the one common thing which I think is there between these old types of people and these next gen people is they have this small coterie which moves around with them. There are these secretaries or your right hand man or your left hand man. Would somebody stand up and tell this person, hey, before posting, at least ask me, I'm the expert. Don't just blabber out on social media. Stop what you are doing.
So there are organizations where they have in-house and branding, communication and branding teams, which are very
Yeah.
strong. Again,
Yeah.
depends on the personality of the founder and the CEO, whether they're open to listening, and on the
Yeah.
personality of the PR person to be able to stand up and say, "Hey, no, this is not right. You should not be doing this."
Yeah.
So it's important to have that a very good equation between the two of them, because all companies have internal and external branding PR teams, which are extremely important, especially when you're a public figure and when you're going for talks on a weekly basis. Sometimes when you're in the midst of so much work, you might not realize the speech that you're giving on how it's going to impact the other person. But that's where emotional intelligence comes into play. And if you're able to have the empathy to understand the other person's point of view, and also to be able to deliver in a way that other people should understand, that ways it creates a good balance. So it depends on the individual, and a strong PR and a communications team is definitely important.
Yeah. So let's take this hypothetical scenario. Let's say a person who's probably a leader rising up the ranks and comes and reaches out to you and tells you, help me, help my organization. Let us become more in touch with what is happening in the real world. How
Yeah.
would you help them out? What would you suggest?
Deepak,
What would your action
can you
plan
mute
be?
others? Deepak, can you mute others?
Done.
Okay. So my first, there would be a few pointers. My first point would be a good listener. So the one thing is about being an effective communicator, and second is being a good listener. You could be a leader sitting in the room where everybody is willing to talk and they're willing to share their opinions, but if you're not listening to what they have to say, then it's of no use, it's of no value. And what happens is that when you go up the ranks and the team grows and expands, so somehow we might lose sight, which is so natural. Where one person as a CEO, how would you know about everything that's going on?
Yeah.
So check in meetings with your team. And I would say not just one level down, like a -1, -2. You should get in touch with the team, the mid management as well,
Hmm.
and meet them regularly, whether it's in a closed room, in a conference room, or you have networking events organized, which is a little bit more informal setting, to hear what people have to say. What is the real opinion on ground in the office? We might, of course, anybody who enters the room, the CEO's room, will come with a different facade. They'll come with a different personality. They'll come with a different vibe. But
Yeah.
the true vibe is what comes out when you end up having these meetings, and when you end up hearing and you're a good listener. And not just about listening, but also taking into account, being empathetic towards what they have to say, and trying to implementing the best that you can do to make sure that the organization moves forward together, collaboratively, and not just with the vision of just one individual, but hey, let's all move forward together. And those are the companies that end up being successful, and they end up retaining talent as well for a longer time.
Yeah, yeah. At this point, what I'll do is I'll bring in Abhijit to come and talk a little bit about his experience, because he was also a CFO in a listed company, and today, even as a CA and is a partnership, there are, more than 200, 250 articles working inside his company under him. Abhijit, would you like to one share your views and then ask Sarika something which would probably be related to what we've been discussing?
Yeah. So my questions to her will be straight on the subject itself, and I think as a career strategist, is when exactly should one strategize? Is it at any stage can one strategize, or at times maybe it becomes too late to strategize, and maybe yes, you just can't be a CEO any longer. So, what's the right time?
Okay. So, strategy, if I were to just talk about the term itself, it's a blueprint that turns dreams into realities, right? Helps you provide direction, it helps in prioritizing efforts, and it helps in setting milestones for achieving your goals. So, an effective strategy starts with a clear vision and having realistic goals, followed by breaking down those goals into actionable steps. So, it doesn't have to necessarily be at the time where you've already become CEO. It actually starts really early on in your career, because that is what ends up helping you become CEO at an early age and definitely be a more effective leader, right? It also requires a lot of discipline and tracking progress and being adaptable when things don't go as planned. So it's a skill that is acquired over years. It's not something that just comes overnight, but it's something that should be practiced over the years. And a good strategist is someone who will definitely be a good leader as a CEO.
So, one can definitely strategize to be a CEO even at the entry level. That's what you say.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's the skill that you end up sharpening, and if you end up work. See, I'll give you an example. With my career as well, I've also always been somebody who has enjoyed being a planner and strategizing, right? And that ways you're able to. I think maybe it came to me naturally, maybe because of circumstances that I had to move to various locations. So there was a lot of uncertainty, and I had to learn how to navigate through uncertain times, right? To changes. I've always worked with CEOs and founders. Right from the first company that I joined at Executive Access, I worked with the MDs, I worked with 7 partners. The second company, I again worked with Anjali Bansal, she's the MD and the partner. The third company with the founders. So, what happens is, as along the way, when you're working directly with the founders, you kind of get a little bit of an insight in the way they're thinking. You become better at strategy, and then you end up reaching that better. So I feel like it should be something that should start right from the beginning, and you just get better with it over the years.
How do you, at that level, when you say, when you saying of balancing the work with when you're saying you're a life strategic coach, how exactly can one balance that?
Okay. That's a really good question. And that's something I work with a lot of clients on, because I have personally gone through a stage where working 14, 15 hours a day, 7 days a week at the organizations that I was working at, because that was a demand. And that is how things are going nowadays with startups and companies. That is what is required. But what I do feel is, along with that, which is something which you cannot avoid, what you can do is definitely help help yourself in avoiding a mental burnout. Because what happens is, after a point, we only have so much energy physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So how do you, if you don't fill up your own cup in time, you're not going to be able to give back. And even if you are, then you're going to burn out very soon. So for me, meditation has been something that has been life changing, and it could be done a few minutes a day, it could be done a few minutes in a week as well, whatever works for an individual. But I think having a good balance internally and finding a spiritual practice that helps you bring yourself back to sanity, to calmness in your mind, will just help you be better. So meditation, yoga, a nice walk, whenever it is, at any time of the day or night, doesn't really matter given everyone's schedule. Of course, ideal would be early morning, but for me, even if you're able to get in a few minutes every day and practice mindfulness during the day as well. Like I was talking about earlier about being a good listener, it's really about being mindful. When you're in the moment, you're present in the moment. You're not Mind is not wandering about the past or the future when you're having a conversation. If I'm sitting in a room and I'm speaking to someone, then my attention is there 100%. So as you're doing things, you're being productive, you're being present, and then you also center yourself and be responsive and not reactive. And that comes naturally when the mind is calm and you're centered.
So, do you see there are any changes in the way one goes about this mindfulness, or you say you had a very great word, spiritual energy across cultures? So you worked in various countries. So maybe in the US or in Europe or maybe in India. Is there a different way to how people manage their work life or stress?
Yes, I do feel that it does. It's a top-down approach, and the culture is defined by the top layer. And if the CEO, founders, and the leadership believe and understand the importance of a work-life balance, then there would be more trust within the organization. And it's not really about clocking in the hours, but really about the quality work and making sure that the team is delivering on time. What I noticed in the US, of course, can't generalize, there are various organizations. People are more aware, they're more open, there's less stigma about talking about journaling, talking about writing your emotions and expressing yourself. Therapy, counseling is extremely more common in the Western world where people are more open and talking about it. However, here I feel in India, given even during COVID times where people were going through so many challenges, losing family members, which was taking a toll on their emotional and mental health, but there was still a huge stigma for anyone to even speak up and mention it to their reporting manager because they feel they would be lack of empathy or maybe not understanding or maybe they'll be judged on the work that they're doing, right, versus understanding that hey, this is also a part of the individual as a human being. These are just parts of us. So maintaining a work life balance definitely is a top down approach. And I wish that more organizations are open to, even though we're moving at a much faster pace in comparison to the developed world, but if we're able to incorporate it today, I feel like as Indians, we're so intelligent human beings. We may not need to work 14, 15 hours. We can do it at lesser if we give a little bit more time for family time and your alone and your self-care time, which is not spoken of so much here.
And when you say a top-down approach, so how would one actually balance it at the very top? So
Very good
maybe down
question.
the line you'll have HR helping them, or you'll have people helping them. But at the what I call the KMPs, the CEO, the CFO, and the company secretary or the
Right.
functional heads,
Right.
how do you actually manage their stress? Because whom do they really go to? Because
Right.
at a point of time in India, you can't appear to be that vulnerable where, as you said, you need the therapy or the counseling or the help.
Right. Right. So very good question. And I feel like the more autonomy you provide your team and is the less stress you end up taking because you're kind of giving up, you're not we anyway not in charge of everything. We can't be in control of everything. And if we take stress about every single thing that takes place on a daily basis, of course I understand the deliverables and there are timelines that need to be addressed. But that's where the trust comes into factor, the autonomy that's been given to the team members. They end up feeling more empowered. It's important for you to give that make the employees feel empowered so they feel they're responsible for their respective divisions and their respective work. And when it comes to the stress that you're talking about, it's an individual's choice whether they would like to take on the stress or not. Of course, therapy is something that is extremely common, and I feel like it should be taken up and spoken of. It doesn't matter if the CEO doesn't want to talk about it; you don't have to, but it should have somebody, a coach, or a strategist, or a counselor, or a therapist to talk about. Because what happens after a point is that it's natural for a human being to have a tendency to get overflowed in the mind, and you need to release it some way or the other. Whether you end up going on a program meditation, you want to go on a holiday, whatever it is to help you unwind. But that is important, and giving more autonomy and freedom to your employees also leads to high retention, which means less attrition, which obviously means that you'll have people working with you for longer, and then you have a good equation and relationship with them, and things end up going well. It sounds a little bit more theoretical, but I've also
Yeah,
seen it
agree.
without taking names. I have seen this happen, and I have personally experienced this as well. This does work.
So now going straight to our topic, which is reimagining your career in a fast changing world. So how fast is the world changing, and how fast should we reimagine our career? So what's the short term, medium term, or the long term when one looks at it?
Right. So the world is changing extremely fast. And we need to adapt as fast as possible because there's a lot of agility. And if you're not able to keep up with the changes and good at problem solving, crisis management, very soon you'll be replaced, whether you like it or not. So it's important when you think of an ideal career, it aligns with your core values, your strengths, and your passion while providing opportunities for growth and fulfillment. So it's very important for you to understand the company that you're working for. What are your individual core values? What are your strengths? And what are the passions that you have? And then matching that with the organization, which ends up leading to a more long term you end up staying there long term. And in case there's any mismatch or you feel like you've outgrown, it's time for you to make the switch. So don't hesitate to do that. Of course, I'm not talking about making frequent changes, but I also feel like the moment you feel you have learned it, you've done it, you've and now it's time for you to move on, that is the right time and opportunity for you to do so, because that's when you end up learning and you still end up being in the game. Otherwise, you'll be out very soon.
So with the economy changing, so you whatever you call it, the VUCA world, the BANI world, and maybe you have the gig economy or the just in time for all your needs. What does the employee really do? Because he could be redundant at any time with now with AI coming in so fast. So what exactly are the skills? Basically, you have, as you said, the generic skills of adaptability or learning, upskilling. But what's the time he should spend on working? What's the time he should spend on learning? So generally, what we do is Monday to Fridays we work.
Right.
Saturdays it's all on upskilling ourselves, and Sunday it's maybe except for this occasional Bloom talk show, it's for the family. So is that the right way, or maybe now you have the 4 hour week or 5 hour work day? So what? Or maybe you'll have a Narayan Murthy talking about an 80-hour work week. So what exactly is the right way, or is it varies as per individual?
It's varied as per the individual. I don't feel like there's a right or a wrong way to see how it works for each individual. It doesn't necessarily mean that you spend one full day in a week to upskill yourself. Why not do it all the time? As you're meeting any individual, as you're meeting even people in office, keep learning, keep asking questions, keep being curious as you go for networking events, put yourself out there, create your own personal brand. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a specific day and a time where you're online, you're reading, you're learning, you're doing it as and when you're going. If you're in the car driving from one location to the other in Bombay, it would take you so long to get from north to south, and from in Delhi, Gurgaon, put on a podcast, listen to it. If you the more you listen, the more you absorb, the more you end up and keep practicing it day to day. It's not something that we're kind of building up our box and then our intellectual box, and then we'll suddenly one day use it all. It's we should be practicing it on a daily basis with each individual we're working with in the company, internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. So my short answer to your question is that the key to survival and thriving is definitely adaptability and resilience. And it is about developing a growth mindset that sees change as an opportunity rather than as a threat. We must not look at it like a threat. It's actually an opportunity for us to grow and to move forward. Flexibility in your career path and being open to learning new skills is definitely crucial. It's always been, and it's even more crucial in today's day and age. And emotion intelligence, what I spoke about earlier as well, plays a huge role here because it allows you to manage your stress, connect with others, and lead through uncertainty. I keep coming back to this point because I do realize and notice as I speak and meet with top individuals that if the emotional quotient is on the lower side, that becomes even harder for you to retain and manage talent. So that's something that should can be practiced on and that AI cannot bring.
Agree. So I completely endorse that. The more higher you go up the ladder, I think you need to be mentally tough, and the emotional intelligence quotient needs to be very high because you'll have people with IQ to work under you. I think you would need a very high EI. Coming back again in this, when we are talking of the current economy, I've seen a lot of professionals, especially on the left and right side of near 50, just retiring, and they have made substantial money over a period of time. And maybe the stock markets are giving them enough opportunities to just invest their money and earn a lot of passive income. So they are just enjoying their life. So, what do you think of this trend, which is ever increasing?
Right. So it definitely shows as a shift in mindset in individuals today versus maybe a few years ago, where it was important for them to work until their last day. So it just does reflect that there's a shift in the way people think and about financial security. Now, many people, many professionals reach a point where they've accumulated enough savings and experience to seek more flexibility and autonomy over their time. And investing in the stock market definitely provides an opportunity to create passive income streams while pursuing other interests, right? Like you rightly said. But it also reflects the desire to maintain financial independence in an era where job security is no longer guaranteed. So it is crucial for individuals to balance their risk with the need for stable income, especially given the market volatility. However, I do have the opinion that financial stability is one thing, but also keeping your mind active and keep working, whether it's you starting something of your own or keeping yourself busy and having a routine is extremely healthy for you to stay if you would like to, if you aspire to reach the 90s and cross, right? So one thing is about earning and financial income. The second thing is about keeping your mind and your physical body active. Retiring and enjoying and going on holidays sounds great, looks great. But if you read about the individuals who end up living the longest are the ones who really keep themselves busy physically and mentally on a daily basis till their last day.
Yeah. And how would you, as a professional, whether he's a working professional or as a corporate employee, balance between his happiness, satisfaction, contentment, vis-a-vis his ambition, and maybe you could call it a greed, or maybe it could also mean taking stretch targets and goals and getting stressed. So
Okay.
where is that golden path?
Right. So some organizations they do invest in creating a happiness and wellness culture within the organization, and that definitely helps in maybe not needing to go outside and reducing your stress levels or requiring more self care. But in other cases, like true wellness goes beyond offering perks like yoga sessions or mindfulness apps or about fostering a culture where employees feel valued and heard. It's really about providing a safe environment for an open communication within employees, right? Offering career development opportunities, ensuring work life balance. So it's important for organizations to listen to their employees' needs and adapt their wellness strategies to make a meaningful impact. And for you to be able to balance that in life, again, I come back to being mindful. I come back to meditation. I come back to being present in the moment. When you're spending time with your family, when you're spending time with your children, that's not the time for you to be on your phone to reply to emails or to take a phone call. Even if you receive one, hey, it's my dinner time, 30 minutes, I'm with my kid right now, and that is my family time, right? And those are the values that being present in the moment, that 30 minutes you're dedicating. After 30 minutes are over, you can take as many calls as you need to. Again, you can plan it and say next 45, 50 minutes I'm on holiday, this is my time to work. But it's really up to you, how do you manage your time, how disciplined you are. And you'll feel more fulfilled when when you're investing as much time in your personal and professional life. And I come back to self care because it's extremely important, which could be different for different individuals. For a lot of seniors, I've noticed that playing a sport on the weekend is a great stress buster. Going out with their friends, switching their phone off, and playing golf or basketball, or they're going for badminton 2 hours in the morning on a Sunday. It sounds like a lot because it's so difficult to take out that kind of time, but you'll come back so rejuvenated and let's say recharged that you'll be able to give back on Monday morning, much faster. With in lesser time, you'll be able to do a lot more. That is extremely important, and it could be art, craft, dance, Bollywood. It could even be going out meeting your friends. But that stress buster is required for you to kind of detox your mind as well on a daily, weekly basis.
So while just my final question before I hand it over to Deepak and maybe the audience to join uh, in a lot of organizations, I personally feel, again, you could correct me, is a lot of this is taken care maybe by HR, or there is a separate wellness happiness department, the chief happiness officer or whatever you call him, who takes care. And for them, it's maybe a tick box that you have one or two outbound sessions a month, some yoga sessions, some dinner sessions, or anywhere which is planned, some fun activities, and in spirit, it's really not happening. And most of the times the employee, as you said, does it for himself, the weekend yoga or the weekend classes or the sports, whatever it does. Now, do you think you need a regulation to basically change the outset? Because let's say in a lot of cases, women empowerment, they specifically had independent women directors in a ratio doing it. In our CAA, we have something called an audit quality maturity model, and there are the score. And in that score, there is something where what are you exactly doing for wellness? What are you exactly doing for handling employee stress? So it's a mandated requirement, and when there is a mandate, then only people will do it. Otherwise, across corporates, it's the quarter on quarter numbers, how you are hitting and scoring, and what your prices on the stock market are dictating. So what's your view on what should it be and how should it be?
So I would go back to the first point, the first question that I was asked, that if you provide a safe environment and an open culture, you would not feel the need to manage stress as much in the organization.
Agree, agree.
Everybody has deadlines, everybody needs to follow them. That's absolutely fine. But one yoga session in a week, I'm sorry to say, it's not really not going to do the cut. It's not going to make the cut, because that might just help a little bit. But people who have not practiced it on a daily basis will not be able to appreciate the importance of breath work and yoga until they don't practice it themselves, or they don't resonate with that particular practice. So definitely, of course, HR did try their best, and they do have these, like you said, chief happiness leader, or they'll have, HR doing that. That's their responsibility, which has been given by the leadership team. So they're doing their job. But a safe environment, open communication, offering career development opportunities, and ensuring a work life balance in its true self is the real way for you to have a healthy environment and to have a productive environment where individuals are given autonomy. They feel empowered, and they end up they stay longer in organizations. They are retained longer, and they take their job as their own company, and they take more ownership. And that's an environment which is extremely healthy, because you'll have a less churn and a less turnaround as well. They stick around with you, they end up growing, they grow in emotional intelligence, they grow in intellectually as well, and of course with experience and better stability definitely shows that the company is doing well, doing something well. So my short answer would be, it's great that companies are doing it. Please continue to do so. It's better to do that than not to do anything. But we will not feel the need to have so many programs if we were able to create an environment on a daily basis, which is healthy, happy, safe, and open communicated with the employees on a daily and a weekly basis.
So still there's a lot of work in progress to be done.
Yes, I do feel
So,
that.
I just would just because we have one more co-founder, Prem Raj, who's also the host, not in today.
Okay.
So he's been a banker with about 37 years of experience, and after he retired, he's only been into employee wellness as his a because he's seen the hard part of it, and he here we are talking without naming one of the top listed private sector bank of the country. So was a CEO handling about 18,000 people, and maybe wellness to him. So over to you, Deepak. Yeah.
Thank you, Abhijit. You took care of all the questions which needed to be asked to Sarika. Of course, there are so many other questions to be asked, but let's at this point bring in our audience and our patron saint, our lady, Brenda Mendes has been there, ever since we started. And Brenda has spent 4 decades in really, really big multinationals in India. She has a wealth of experience, and after retiring a few years ago, she has, as you said, never retire. She's never retired officially after retiring. She's seen the workplace. She's seen how leaders work. She's been there, if you say their right hand man or right hand woman. So, if you wanted to go to the leader, you had to pass by, say hi to her, and then enter the cabin. That's what she's seen. That's what she's been doing. You've been listening for the last 40 minutes to Sarika and what we've been discussing. Tell us a little bit about your experience and how do you relate with what used to happen then and what is happening now, Brenda. Over to you.
Thank you for bringing me in. Yeah, I've been listening very carefully, and since I also research and watch the trends world over, I would say yes. As far as learning goes, it is today the purpose of education is really learn to teaching to learn. So there is no question about keeping it on one day or 2 days or you know allocating time. If you said that I have in a way I'm doing my third or fourth career, it's simply because every single day I never go to sleep unless there's been at least some 0.1% something I have learned. It may be something stupid.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I was in a conclave and I had to do the Google form and I did not know how to do the short text and the long text or whatever. And there was nobody to ask. But at the end of the day, I had learned something new. I had exercised my mind.
Yeah.
So I think today employers are looking for such people. They're willing to take a coder and then make them an artificial, a person who can upgrade to artificial intelligence. So I think that is very much so. As far as wellness goes, we've had these practices a long time. I don't see. I mean, yes, Posh was not there maybe 20 years ago when there was a lot of sexual harassment going on, but today it may have reduced a little bit. I don't think very much because people don't come up with. I have been on one or two companies where there have been no complaints for 5 years and I resigned. Because we cannot be a company, a big company, where there's not a single complaint in
No.
5 or 10 years. Okay. So these things, and the same thing I think is with wellness, with mental health. Today companies are giving a lot of sort of amenities and allowing people to see counselors, they even paying for it, having people come. I don't think we have reached the stage where mental health is actually uh, not taboo.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this from even a point of the last 2 or 3 years, because after I retired from HUL, I went back for another 6 years to set up a company. So what I'm saying is not very old. While companies give you the benefit of going to the psychiatrist or the counselor, every employee still has the fear, not only the fear, the real fear.
Yeah.
I've seen what adverse and I'm talking of big companies like HUL and other MNCs. How the repercussions have been. It is acceptable that usually their job career takes a hit, and very often in 6 months or 1 year they have to leave. That
Yeah.
is the reality of the situation, even today.
Correct.
But things will improve because while the very well qualified and speaker has been telling us about so many things about retention, etc., we have to realize that especially in India, this retention level thing is not going to be a big thing because we have so many employees and so few jobs. So people will be changing jobs all the time. So
Yeah.
companies sort of commitment uh, to train people and develop people to become the CEO. Like when I joined, it was the A, B, and C listers. So people knew that when you joined that you were people would talk your CEO potential. That's
Yeah.
no longer the case. So full lifelong and full time jobs are only in one company, the graveyard. So that has changed. That has changed how companies will do, even how they will recruit. They
Yeah.
will recruit people with a lot of nuance, not only on the job they are going to do, and also, but what their potential is. So also the training will be with a lot of nuance, not available maybe to everybody and mandatory as it is. Mandatory hardly works.
Yeah.
So I think he's very right in saying that you have to take the onus. In fact, HUL gave everything but said, you decide, you nominate yourself to programs every year. So these are the changes feel. And having attended a business conclave just yesterday, I find that business owners are also thinking the same way. Dr. Niranjan Hirnandani, who was a very good speaker and just gave stories, brought out all these points of if you are just 0.001% every day better, then imagine at the end of the year. That's the only way you'll retain your career.
So, I have one more question for you, and I will ask that same question to Sarika also, and let's see the difference in the answer. Because you worked with leaders and CEOs who became, the top person in the organization in India, and then went on to lead the world, multinational across the world. How has leadership changed? What do you see 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago and today's leaders?
There's a lot of change. There is more transparency. There is more, leaders realizing that there are two classes in which they fall. Okay. There are those leaders who have got there and, they've done it all, but they have not been, their learning has not caught up with them all the time. They are not humble enough. They are not open enough. And so they remain CEOs. Okay. And even now, though they have a lot to give back, they don't even want to become non-executive directors, though we have 31,000 vacancies for non-executive directors in our country.
Yeah.
They have other side who are, the ordinary people of the world like Brenda, who, never stopped learning for some reason or other, because I never thought this would bring me a second career. HUL will call me back. I never thought I would go back to college at 68 to do my master's in training. I did not think I'd become. So this was not a plan.
Yeah.
But learning out of my curiosity is in my DNA. So there are people like that also, and people who are conscious enough, even if they're CEOs at 58, 60, they realize there's something beyond. So they're building their brand, they're learning, they are more and more on LinkedIn. These people will go on to have second careers, and that leadership has changed from control and command to more open and also more humble and more serving. I would agree.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Sarika, how do you find today's leadership compared to, let's say, 5, 10, 15 years ago?
So I definitely agree with Brenda, but just to add to that, I also feel that feeding your well-being, building meaningful relationships, maintaining a sense of balance is extremely important in today's day and age, right? It's good to have an aspiration on a good blend of personal growth, professional achievements, contributing to a larger purpose. You should stretch a little bit beyond your comfort zone while keeping yourself grounded in your values and purpose. So I completely agree with Brenda, but just wanted to add this one point.
Thank you. Let's bring in Harish sir, Harish Mehta sir. He was a bank manager with one of the largest banks in India in his young age. Then he shifted, moved companies, led somewhere else, and that took him somewhere else. Harish sir, you've been hearing what Sarika's been talking about, what Brenda shared. Share with us your experiences in the next 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, before I speak on that, Sarika's upbringing is different. Number one, she has traveled the world. Her perspective is coming from that. Like me and her, we were born with a silver spoon. We have learned from the best in the world, and we would like to teach people to become best in the world.
Yeah.
Now, what she has, her perspective is an ideal situation. The hunger to learn is missing. And wherever it is available, people are casual. Otherwise, we would be growing leaders every day.
Yeah.
This country can give so much of leadership to the world,
Yes.
provided we have the hunger to learn and the discipline to maintain ourselves.
Yes.
We get caught up in the daily routine.
Yes.
I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of CHROs in the last 10, 15 years that I've been coaching. They are not learners. I may be looking forward to be corrected. They only shake their glasses and show to the world with Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been part of this fraternity, and I see very few people want to share and care for the next generation, which is going to be leading.
Yeah.
So the calamity is, I wish we had 20,000 Sarika Puris Yes, 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 yes. Who have been groomed, who have been brought up, and who have created for themselves a niche.
Yeah.
What she speaks is again what my children speak, both my daughters, yeah. Because they have been educated in a different environment. They have traveled by car to school, college, and now they have their own facilities. So the ideal situation is the hunger is missing. And wherever there is hunger, there are very few people who want to climb that ladder.
Yes.
And investing in yourselves, Deepak, you know it.
Yeah.
This young man at 52 invested 1 crore 50 lakh rupees on unlearning
Yeah.
and then relearning
Yes.
and now teaching to the world what you need to give back to the world. So, very few people who have made their money in the late 40s or 50s are keen to unlearn and relearn.
Yes.
And since I belong to the international coaching fraternity, I see, and my business coach, Brad Sugar, used to say, leave your CEO title outside the room when you come for coaching. You're no more a CEO. You are a coach in learning. And unless you learn, you cannot coach people. So my take here is, Sarika, I would love to have a conversation with you and maybe participate in some areas where you feel this young man at 66 can still serve. Yes, because I'm going to serve a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be very hard on them.
Yeah.
And my favorite cliche, in life you get what you want when you know what you want.
Wow.
How many of them know what they want
Yeah.
and they want well enough?
Yes.
So it was fun listening to you. I wish there were 500 people watching this program and listening to you and
Yes.
getting that trigger that we need to grow sooner than later. And don't take this to your grave because you have got a lot of potential. You only talk about the word potential. Are we really growing on your potential? Do you really want to become what you were born for?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It is not happening whether you take HUL or MSMEs or small business owners. They say, how much will you take as money, as my coaching fees?
Yeah.
They're not looking at the value they will become. They're not looking at if Brenda can do at this age. She's a little senior to me, I must confess. But she's a great woman.
Yeah.
So she is another person who is
Yeah.
the Radhakrishnan, who is at 72 enriching lives every day.
Yeah.
So there are Hari Ramakrishnan. There are so many people who still want to give back so much.
Yeah.
But where are those hungry people?
Yeah.
I'm looking at hunger. And
So
if
I
hunger was
just-
available,
Yeah.
we would love to commit our time to them. Thank you, Sarika.
Thank
It was
you.
a pleasure meeting
Thank you,
you,
sir.
knowing you. Would like to connect with you. And Abhijit, I don't know, how did you find this treasure for today's program? Bless you, people. You are
We
in
have
Delhi.
pleasures
I
lined
was
up
in
for the
Delhi.
next 2 months on every Sunday of Bloom. But I just like to share something that happened yesterday. You spoke about your potential and what you can achieve after you've been born. I was in a coaching program, training program yesterday, and there were 40 people sitting in front of me. And I asked them one question. How many of you feel you are born winners? How many people do you think raise their hands? None. Everybody is doubting themselves. And I told them, you were the fastest sperm. You won the first race of life. That is why you were born. And after that, all 40 of them raised their hands. So you require somebody to tell you how great you are, what you can achieve, the unlimited potential you have. And before we close, I'll ask Sarika one question. What are the challenges in front of today's leaders, today's leadership?
Like you rightly said, self-doubt, and there are some statistics which are available in the US that almost 85% of the people, they do have self-doubt. And it's an external validation that people need on a daily basis to remind them how good and how worthy they are. But what's really important and matters is, the more you take care of yourself, the more you're connected with your own self, is you end up realizing your self value, your self worth, and
Yeah.
build self esteem, self confidence. And then that's how you become a leader, and people follow you for the energy that you have. And that's what you manifest in the universe.
Yes.
So that would be my answer.
Yeah,
And they
I
don't
just
have a
take,
big picture. They can't see the picture.
Yes.
That picture which you are showing speaks volumes the way you speak.
Yeah.
The confidence that you are throwing to people, the way you have grown in the last 10 years, I don't know whatever your age to today, but the way you have grown yourself speaks volume about what you have invested in the last 10 years.
Sarika,
Lovely,
you spoke
brilliant.
about validation for leaders, and I just want to close with this one question. I would love to have your answer on this. With the arrival of social media, everybody is looking for validation. Everybody is posting either a post or a text or an image or, probably a reel, and then waiting how many likes did I got, how many people reposted my post. Everybody is looking for validation on social media. How has life changed, especially for leaders after social media?
Is that question towards me or to Sir?
Yes, yes, to you, Sarika. Yes.
Um, so my opinion on social media is it's all artificial. You can use algorithms. You could purchase and pay for paid promotions and get your million
Yeah,
likes and
yeah,
followers. Is that really real? I mean, for me, I feel like, does it feel good? I mean, you want to go check every morning on how many likes you got. That's great. But the real value is the impact that you're creating in today's world on a daily basis with each individual, and the connection that you're creating, not about, that's all artificial according to me. It does
yeah.
work, and the world is moving that way. And I don't deny that. You need to adapt to the changing world. So it's all
Yes.
right. You go ahead and do it, but that should not be the reason for you to wake up in the morning and for you to feel good about yourself.
Uh,
What really matters is how you feel from within and what value you're creating in the world. And that could be something you're doing over and above, that's fine. But the likes and comments and the analytics, statistics can all be managed with algorithm, with the time and the day that you're posting, what you're putting, shorter reels, all that can be managed. What real impact is the value you're creating with every individual in your life, and to feel fulfilled on a daily basis.
Wonderful. This is such a sobering thought, and it is also an empowering observation. What value are you creating? How many lives did you touch? Not how many likes you got. How many lives did you touch today?
Yes.
Brenda said, I want to improve by 0.01% every day. And let that be the takeaway from this session. We could have kept on talking for another 2 hours and the session wouldn't have ended. But what will we do is we will bring Sarika again back on the Bloom platform on one of either the future Sundays or probably in a physical event in the near future, so that we can learn more from her experience and then, give it back to the world. At this point, let me take this opportunity to thank Sarika for taking time out on a Sunday,
Thank you.
speaking with us, sharing her knowledge and her experience, and all you lovely, wonderful people who've been there, right there throughout, listening to her and asking her those questions. So, thank you, everybody. Let's make use of what we've learned from this today and see to it that we come back next Sunday, 12:30, same time on the 219th Sunday Bloom Talk Show.
Can't
Bye,
can't
everybody.
close without the closing ceremony, sir.
Yes, I was waiting for Amit to ask this question because every episode he asks me to sing a song. And
Oh,
since we
wow.
are since we are talking about people and teams, one song which comes to mind is if every person in the team sang this song, एक दूसरे से करते हैं प्यार हम, एक दूसरे के लिए बेकरार हम, एक दूसरे के वास्ते मरना पड़े तो है तैयार हम, अमित फिट हो रहा है कि नहीं?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
very much, very much.
Thank you, everybody. See you
Yeah.
next Sunday.
Would you like
Bye.
to take a commemorative picture?
Oh, yes, most definitely. You could store it for yourself. Anybody who would like to come on screen, please go ahead.
Please
Ganesh,
do. I
Amit,
would love to
Abhijit.
have it for my records as well.
Yes, please go ahead.
Would you like me to click it?
Yo, go ahead, please.
Thumbs up, everybody, if you would
Yay.
like to.
Yes.
And a big smile. Thank
Big
you so
smile.
much.
Thank you,
1,
everybody. See you
2,
next
3.
Sunday. God bless us all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.